JM in the AM Wednesday, and many of you have heard about the fire that recently damaged the Agri Star meat and poultry plant in Postville, Iowa. It's creating concerns, according to this story here, creating concerns that extend beyond Iowa. While the fire has already impacted hundreds of workers, Jewish leaders say it could also affect the nation's kosher meat supply as families prepare for the high holidays. With us, Rabbi Elefant is the CEO of OU Kosher, Rabbi Moshe Elefant, who has made some public statements about this situation. He's joining us here on JM in the AM. Rabbi Elefant, a pleasure to welcome you back to JM in the AM.
Thank you. It's always a schus to speak to you, Nachum.
I appreciate that very much. I never have gotten a handle on the kosher meat situation, meaning the landscape here in the U.S. I read that this agri plant has about 10%. That was the estimate of the kosher meat supply in the country. How many facilities are there in the U.S. that actually produce kosher meat the way they do?
Well, meat the way they actually produce, there are really only two. Most kosher slaughter that's taking place in the United States of beef is not being done in a slaughterhouse which is owned by a Jewish company, by religious Jews. Most slaughter is being done in slaughterhouses that kill animals, and they also set up a shechita, but they're not a kosher business. They're just having what's known as a kosher kill. Agri and one other place, Solomon's, are businesses that actually own a kosher slaughterhouse. And that's what makes Agri so very unique.
So they're in Iowa. Where's Solomon? Which state?
Hastings, Nebraska.
And the others are, I don't know, do they have a very large part of the market, the ones you described that just do the...
Yes. Some of the very large manufacturers of kosher beef don't want to own a slaughterhouse. It's incredible as a business model what happens when you own a slaughterhouse that's here to shecht kosher beef. We don't eat Ashkenazic Jews and the OU and most reputable hashgachas in the United States do not certify the hindquarters. I don't know if you're learning the Daf Yomi, right, or if any of I'm sure many of your listeners are. Yeah. And exactly the Gemara we're learning right now from Masechta Chulin that speaks about the Geranosha teaches us that the veins and blood vessels, etc., particularly in the back half of the animal, that are not easy to remove. So there's a custom in Ashkenazic Jews, hundreds of years already, that we never eat the hindquarters. Right. So even when you get a glatt kosher animal, 50% is not being sold for kosher. Right. Then you have, of course, the halacha, or which meat is kosher and which meat is not. That has to go through different examinations. So typically, your yield is not more than 20% as glatt kosher beef that could be sold as glatt kosher.
And that makes that arrangement even nicer for those that you're partnering with, right? If someone is, because they're able to keep
that's why exactly what you're saying. You're right on the money. That's why many people who are in the meat business don't want to be in the slaughter business, because I'm in business to sell kosher beef, but 80% of what I'm selling is not kosher.
So it's funny because impression is always interesting, and the impression was that these couple of exclusively kosher slaughterhouses, you described them, really had a very, very large part of the market. And I say it that way because when I read 10% from Agri, I thought that was a really low figure. So number one, is the figure in fact, relatively accurate, to the best of your knowledge? And collectively, I assume those two slaughterhouses really do control, and I'm not saying it's insignificant, but control somewhere in the 20% range of in the kosher meat industry in the United States.
And the answer is, I think that number is accurate. I can't say to the penny, right? But I'll tell you why. First of all, a very large percentage of the kosher beef that is being consumed is actually coming from South America.
That we consume in the United States.
That we consume in the United States. It's less expensive, leaner, and also don't have a lot of other issues that you have in the slaughterhouses in America. So when you talk about the big picture of meat in America, a big percentage of the meat, the glot meat that's being eaten here, is not even from the United States.
Wow.
And then, as I said, there are a lot of other players in the kosher meat market
Right.
that are not buying necessarily from Agri or Solomon's. They're buying, they're killing in different slaughterhouses, and they're very serious part of the business as well.
All right, and not to get too much into the weeds, I really shouldn't, but I'm so curious. So what percentage do you think comes from outside of the U.S.?
Oh, it could be up to 50%.
Oh, wow. Interesting. All right. So to the consumer, and I don't want to be sarcastic, but I'm sure you're aware of the fact that, the moment that this was, this became a news item about the fire, and it's terrible there was a fire. I know there were a lot of displaced workers, et cetera. I know it's a very, very difficult situation to deal with, and I'm not minimizing. I know something about fires, and I'm not minimizing that at all. However, the sarcasm or the cynicism that came from the consumer after that was, here we go, another opportunity for the companies to overcharge us, to make believe or portray a reality that there is a kosher meat shortage in the United States, and obviously Yontif's coming up, and everyone's very concerned about all this. It sounds like from what we've been discussing over the last 5 minutes that there are others who can pick this up. There are others who can move into the space and maybe, I don't know, increase their production at certain other plants, or make arrangements where they can fill the void. Am I being naive, or is there a way for the industry to adjust without the consumer really suffering?
That's a very fair question. Agri did not just slaughter beef. Agri also slaughtered chicken, poultry. And I think on the chicken side, we'll be fine.
Okay.
There are enough big kosher poultry companies that will be able, I believe, to pick up the slack of what Agri was shifting on the chicken side. The beef side, everybody was already working at max. It's not like a chocolate chip cookie.
Right.
I'll buy a little more flour.
Right.
I'll buy some more chocolate chips, and I'll have more chocolate chip cookies. These are animals. You have to have contracts on animals. The animals have to be available. And if you're following, this has nothing to do specifically with the kosher market, the entire beef business has been very affected in the United States. There's a shortage of beef in the United States. The price of beef is very high, historically high. And this is on the non-kosher side.
Right.
So you could only imagine what that does to the kosher side.
Right.
So I really do believe that we have an issue.
I assume the key to recovering from this issue is for Agri to get back on its feet as soon as possible. I know that you're in Kashrut and you don't build warehouses and factories, but from what you know, being on the front lines of all this, do you think that it's possible for them in the next few months or however long it'll take to really get back to where they were?
I would really hope so. I could tell you, like you said correctly, I'm not on the business side, I'm the Kashrut side.
Right.
But I could tell you that there have been nonstop effort from when this terrible tragedy happened by a lot of people, and the kosher community, they have really come together to try to come up with solutions. And we're hoping that there will be solutions. I was on the phone this morning. I've been on the phone every day since last Tuesday when the fire happened to be seeing, to hear what's going on. But I can't tell you that anything has yet to be firmed up.
Yeah, understood. And if there is a price increase, when will the consumer feel it? Like, is this something that's going to happen in the next, few days? Or
all I could tell you is that my Rabbanim have already been communicating over the last couple of days, and this morning even more so, that caterers are very concerned because caterers book simchas, they book parties, weddings, and bar mitzvahs and whatnot, all based on knowing that they're going to have a certain amount of guests and a certain menu, and they book on the assumption that they're going to be able to get the meat that they need to serve. What's happening now is that they're not getting their orders. They're being shorted. And there's a real desperation because you have a contract with a Baal Simcha and you're having a wedding and you're expecting to serve whatever you're serving at the wedding, and then the caterer can't come through with the meat that he needs to prepare and serve. They're really desperate. They're calling. I have caterers that are OU certified that are demanding that the OU guarantee that they will have meat. And I've offered all of the meat in my freezer.
Yeah, I hear that, which might be more than usual because you were the one who made the recommendation, buy your meat now, you said. If you see
But in Europe, my father used to say there was a saying that the shoemaker goes around barefoot.
Right.
I don't think there's too much meat in my freezer.
If you see kosher meat, the quote is, that's properly supervised and sealed, take it because it may not be here when you want it. And you're not being an alarmist, you're being a realist when you say that.
I'm being a real realist, and people told me you have a lot of people listening to you because somebody in my shul just told me that his wife was in a supermarket and she said everybody was in the meat section.
Yeah, I would imagine. Wow. Tough situation. By the way, I'm just curious. Postville, we know that it's been a high-profile place for quite a while. It's a real Jewish community now because the centerpiece is at this point Agri. In Nebraska, is it the same situation, or is it the same number of shochtim and mashgichim, etc.? Or it's
Nebraska does not have the same infrastructure to Postville. Postville is turned into a Jewish community.
Right.
There's a yeshiva there. There's elementary school for boys and for girls. It's a real Jewish community. Hastings has a group of people. They have a minyan every Shabbos, but it's not at all the same model as Postville.
Interesting. Well, and there you have it. That's it. Those are the two exclusive ones. Was there ever a time in the U.S. when there were more exclusive kosher?
Oh, not necessarily, actually. In a way, it was different. In a way, it used to be that there were more slaughterhouses
right.
that weren't necessarily geared only for kosher or primarily for kosher. What happened is those types of slaughterhouses, a very big slaughterhouse is not the type of slaughterhouse that's meant to do glad kosher shchita.
Right.
Glad kosher shchita is going to be much slower than a non-kosher shchita. So if you have a large slaughterhouse, they can't do glad kosher. And more of the slaughtering being done in the United States is being done by these large slaughterhouses, and that's why it's a whole different situation where the people who want to slaughter don't have a lot of options other than having a place like Agri that will be doing what's there to be there for kosher.
Right, understood. Wow, very interesting. Rabbi Elefant suggests that we load up on kosher meat, fill the freezer, because it's possible that you'll feel it in the wallet, in the pocketbook, as we get closer to Yontif, if you don't do so, because there might be some type of shortage, and certainly there might be some price increases. And is there ever a price decrease? Like, I'm thinking of, even from COVID. COVID was one of the reasons, or at least we were told that poultry and meat prices went up. Did it ever come down, Rabbi? I don't shop enough.
I don't know this. I'm not, as I said, really into pricing.
Right.
But I never heard. We were just speaking yesterday morning. There was a breakfast in shul, and they were speaking about. I don't remember if you remember a few years ago, the price of eggs, of a dozen eggs,
right,
went crazy.
Right.
And anybody who was selling anything with eggs raise the price for omelets or all these different types
right,
of egg-based food. And now the price of eggs is not that way, but they still charge a higher price. So I guess that would be a good subject to study. Does the price of anything ever go down?
Let's say that again. We might also want to explore the halachic implications of when something's very expensive and all of a sudden is back to a normal price.
I do have to tell you, a prominent rabbi in the world of kosher Sunday morning sent me an email, and he wrote to me, Rabbi Elefant, you've been speaking a lot about this situation, and I've been very impressed with what you've been saying, but you're not speaking enough about pricing. Wow. And he's right, because pricing is important, and the kosher community already spends a lot of money on living a Jewish life. But as a kosher certification agency, we really need to separate ourselves from the business side and the kasher side.
Yeah, understood. Rabbi Elefant, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate all the information, and let's hope that things get back to normal as soon as possible. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to come back on your program and tell everybody there's plenty of meat at a great price.
Amen to that. Appreciate it very much. Rabbi Moshe Elefant, of course, the Chief Executive Officer at OU Kosher, on a Wednesday morning broadcast here at JM in the AM.